Thank you. So we will have a full video of this event to which you can make reference or send other friends or use for your own purposes. And I think those rich uses of our materials are part of that socialization. So this session will be found at our website at www.waterwomensalliance.org, along with notes. And you don't have to worry about the notes. You can enjoy your lunch or your tea or one another's company. We'll take notes and then we'll offer the notes along with the video in case you prefer to learn that way. That way, if you miss some spellings or some terms or somebody's name, you don't have to sweat it. We'll take care of it from here. So let me say a couple words about the book and then a couple words about each of our speakers, and then it will be all in their hands. I want to situate this conversation in the context of this unique volume. I found it at once beautiful and thoughtful, both compelling and confounding. I came away asking myself why the richness of dance, especially liturgical and other forms of religious dance, has not been theorized as much as I think it should be. It has not been conveyed in this compelling way that invites us all to dance. And I know that the people involved in the book are not the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about the rest of us who work in religion and who have not, I think, many of us taken seriously the possibilities of dance, not only as expression, but also as a way of teaching us things, as the subtitle of the book says, a flow of grace. And I really want to thank you, the three of you, for alerting me to that and how much I personally have missed by not theorizing dance in that way. What I found so moving was the variety of approaches, the many needs fulfilled by dance, the multiple stimuli people reported in this book to which they responded with movement, and the deep insights into others with whom they moved. It is, as I said earlier, a very aesthetically pleasing book. David, I give you credit for that. With photos and paintings and stylized type, you'll want to buy it. You'll want to turn the pages. You'll want to see it for yourself. And I'm hawking it shamelessly for this team because it is such a beautiful piece of work and it really does deserve a very wide audience. There are short vignettes by 30 dancers, and by the time you get through some of them and you accumulate enough of their wisdom, you get the message of each of them to us as readers that we can dance as well. And I found that very, very compelling and again, confounded by the notion of why theologians have not taken dance more seriously to theorize, and really delighted by the fact and compelled by the fact that we can all dance. So now let me offer a warm water welcome to our three guests. First, Carla De Sola. Many of you know her by reputation. We actually have not met, but I feel as if I've known you forever, or at least since the mid-'70s when as a student at the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, I began to see your name, Carla, and your picture, and to hear people rave about your classes, which took place later in the 90s when you joined the PSR, the Pacific School of Religion faculty, through the good offices of the late and great Doug Adams. And I mention his name because I'm sure he's a favorite of yours, and he was a beloved presence at the Pacific School of Religion, and he certainly made a good choice of helping to promote your work and get you there. I must say, during my years in Berkeley, 74 to 80, I was buried under the academic mantle, so never ventured to a dance class, but now I realize what I was missing. Carla De Sola is a pioneer in liturgical dance, the founding director of the Omega Liturgical Dance Company at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City, creator of the Omega West Dance Company in the Bay Area. She has a diploma in dance from Juilliard and an MA in theology and arts from the Pacific School of Religion. She has done so much of this work that I would have to say she really is the founder of a genre. She made liturgical dance something when it was not. Not that there isn't a history of dance in the Christian tradition, but certainly in 20th century Catholicism and other religious traditions, she has made that happen. Her relationship to the Catholic worker movement she describes as part of the grounding that leads her to name the first section of the book, Dancing for the Common Good. And that's how that could have even been the title of the whole book, really. It's just Dancing for the Common Good, I think, is something we need so desperately now. So it's an honor to have you. with us, Carla, really a pioneer in religion and the arts. Let me go on to invite Diana Ware to a warm water welcome, although you've been part of water over the years in many different ways. Thank you for editing this book, Diana. I'm confident that your organization and your direction brought it into being in a certain way. We know one another through the Women's Ordination Conference and also through the Women Church Convergence, which you relate to through a group whose name I love, A Critical Mass. I love the group too. Women Celebrating Eucharist, a Bay Area group. And I hope you feel at home at Water because you certainly are one of us. Diana has served in several communities in the Bay Area for the past 40 years as an activist and a minister. Her professional work was as an assistant director for the Center of Science, Technology, Medicine, and Society at the University of California, Berkeley. And she's also been involved in journal publishing. But I know you best, Diana, or at least I think of you most often in terms of your ministry as a Catholic woman with a Master of Divinity from the Jesuit School of Theology, where Diane New and I both also did MDivs. You qualify for All Dressed Up with No Place to Go with us, and look at the many things that we do, and how exciting it is that we women from the Jesuit School of Theology in Berkeley, although completely, at least in our case, absolutely ignored now almost 40 plus years later, have done the kind of work for which we trained in Berkeley. I went on for the PhD, Diane eventually for the DMin, and but that Jesuit degree, which you share with us and which you put to such wonderful use through your ministry, is just, I think, an example of the kind of work that Catholic women have been doing in priestly ministry for a very long time. So I take my Queen's crown off this week. We don't take our hats, but our crowns off this week to you. For your commitment to worker justice, to nonviolence, to anti-war activism, and to women's ordination. I know you've been involved in all of those things. And I know you're also, according to your bio, busy with political work in Richmond, California, which is an incredible community where you live. And as we see in this volume, we get a sense of your passion for dance and your advice, which I also get from my doctor, which is keep on moving. And I think that's very sage. I'm so glad you're here, Diane. It feels like you've been here for a long time. I want to finally welcome David McCauley Jr. We're not acquainted, David, but I really appreciate your part in this project, and it is so clear what it is. Not only do we see your photographs, your watercolors, and your oils, but you also have an essay on your own experience of dance. I was taken by your comment about moving into the visual arts after your 15 years with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater Foundation. You obviously are an incredibly versatile artist, and we are thrilled to have you in the company of Carla and Diana today. David has been part of the Pearl Primus Dance Company and the Omega Liturgical Dance Company, and he directed the Berkeley Oakland Ely Camp at Cal Performance at UC Berkeley for 20 years. I'm so delighted to meet you and can't wait to follow your new budding career as a book designer. If this is an example, wow.
Thank you.
So welcome to all three of you. I turn the program over to you now to explore with us Dancing with the Divine, a Flow of Grace. Thank you to all of you, and we are in your very capable hands and arms and legs and hearts. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to begin, Carla, as you know, and since we're talking about dance, I think we should move. So either sitting just where you are, I'm going to stand up and just do a prayer of breath, connecting us with our breath together. Okay, put your hands on your heart. Do you hear me? Okay.
You're fine, Carla. Go right ahead. You look great, and we can hear you fine.
I didn't hear that as well. Breathing in. And as you breathe out, opening your arms, your chest expanding. And that's all we do 3 times, connecting with our breath. Breathing in all together. And breathing out. And breathing in. And breathing out. And breathing in. And breathing out. And just open our arms, Bring them forward. Welcome to each other. Inhale. Just simple. Thank you for inviting me. This is a collection, as was already said, on reflections based on individual dances' responses to God's Spirit, Ruah, manifesting through kairos, which are timeless moments as opposed to chronos, usual time, kairos times. They range from deeply personal to social, ecclesial, and artistic. These experiences are engendered through a heightened kinesthetic sense. That to me is the key word, kinesthetic sense. God's presence and mercy in our lives, and often outside of a strictly dance milieu, which is important here. I have found that sharing these stories adds to the beauty the world longs for and lifts our hearts. And we gain a deeper understanding of the integrating and healing gifts of sacred movement and dance. I long, as you know now, desired for the church to welcome and value the role of dance in liturgy for its beauty, witness to the incarnation, resurrection, if you want to get into theological things, assumption. But I wanted the church to recognize and understand the gift of the dance's kinesthetic sense, to value the dance for that gift. I found myself wondering how this gift, as it did for me, might have also contributed to other dancers' ability to recognize and be transformed by kairos times in their lives. For me, without these moments of grace, might never have entered the church or stayed in the church or found my vocation there. These moments I couldn't articulate then, but they began to coalesce years ago when my godmother, Beatrice Bruteau, suggested I search out a Catholic workers' storefront, place of worship on the Lower East Side in New York City. And from there, the story unfolds. Oh, thank you, David. That to me is perichoresis, a ring dance of the Trinity. I turn this over to Diana. Diana, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla. So my entry into this project goes back a quarter of a century working with Carla on sacred dance projects, mostly for social justice and faith-centered activities in the local church. I have known David from those early years as well. I am not a dancer, but had an interest in prayer, movement, and arts to aid in worship. David, we have slides.
We do. There we go.
Thank you.
Sorry.
When
I'm
I
sorry,
went to
this should have been seen before.
This is the spirit moving through community and social justice work. When I went to the Jesuit school in Berkeley to prepare for the Roman Catholic priesthood, there was only one class I was not permitted to take, and that was presentation style. Normally, I would have protested the discriminatory practice, but I was clear that I did not want to stand at the altar as I had seen priests stand in their central roles. I wanted movement and something more fluid to help bring the community together, as I had witnessed from Carla's dance and choreography. She gave me private sessions to help me discover how I might move my body while leading and facilitating prayer and worship. Like many of my ilk, My journey to priesthood would wax and wane with the vicissitudes of the institutional church, haggling over the issue of whether or not women's bodies were fully human or able to lead in our sacred settings. It was maddening. And yet I would move forward. My ministerial call was about service and love, not heartache. My spiritual development and theology would also develop over the years in the company of many faithful people worshiping in a host of traditions. When I graduated from seminary, I thought I would write a book about my experiences and drafted a first version. But I decided I needed 10 more years of social justice work to round out the story. 10 years became 20, and I lost interest in telling that narrative that I had initially envisioned. I moved on. Carla came up with the idea for this book, and she asked me to edit the dancers' essays. Since I had been her editor for 20 plus years, it was a natural. I pored over the stories and worked with the dancers, trying to listen carefully and tidy up their work with gentleness and kindness. For me, editing is both an art form and a ministry. When Carla and I finished amassing the essays, she saw the need for some theological reflection. The two of us came up with the idea to group the essays into sections, hence my themed introductory pieces. To my surprise, after the book had been completed, I realized I had sufficiently told my story and no longer needed to return to that book I had penned 20 years earlier. Another unexpected gift of this divine project was working with Carla and David. I know I speak for the three of us when I say that our friendships, our tender loving care for each other during these years, and enduring all the agonizing details of the publishing process was another flow of grace touched by the divine.
Well, here we go. Intuitively, I recognized Kairos moments as a child when I was drawing, dancing, or looking at the night sky. But it wasn't until I met Carla several decades ago, when I was a dancer in New York, that I was able to concisely name those moments, Kairos moments. For me, they are experiences of being in timelessness. When Carla first spoke to me of the book, asking if I would submit a Kairos moment, I thought of several, but more I thought about how they often, for me, relate to art, dancing, singing, acting, music, and painting. All activities for me that take me to places of exquisite contact with what I think of as the divine creator. But what I chose for my book essay entry was a moment of observation, pure observation of what was around me, where I was at that moment, what I was experiencing in that moment. And that is what I wanted to capture in designing the book. And it started with the beautiful image captured by Carla's very good friend, Beverly Hall, a photo in which Carla and members of Omega Liturgical Dance Company dance in the heart of the Creator's own cathedral. This image showing Carla with her heart open to the heavens said it all to me. I wanted to design Dancing with the Divine in a way that included places for people to visually rest while reading the book, to have a place for visual meditation, much like being in the presence of a stained glass window, colorful and beautiful. A place to let the mind find a single place to be while being everywhere, like looking into a candle, a single element with lots of variation and infinite space to let the mind wander. This painting, Home, captures some of that for me, and I used it as the central theme of the book's interior design. The section markers. Each one has a different feel, but they're all connected. Or the illustrated letters and words. Sorry, I just had a little fun when I realized how the words. Certain images demand that you look at them and figure out what you're looking at, or cause many critical or analytical thoughts to arise. And while they may not be unpleasant, they can be agitating. Other images can ease you into peaceful thoughtfulness, give you the place to let deep thoughts and feelings arise from within and be observed, very similar to meditation. That was my aim in the book's design. In this image, some people have told me they see Jesus, others Mary, or more basically, a man or a woman. I don't disabuse them of any of those ideas. This particular image is bespoke for Joan Englander's reflection on Rumi, where I've sort of done a play on dervish dancing. Initially, I thought that other than the cover image, the subsequent images should all be paintings, because I felt they would allow any viewer entrance to a meditative space of what does this mean to me, both the writing and the art, and do it in a way that requires the reader or viewer to sit with them both a while and contemplate. I compromised a bit and included images of real people, and now I think they too take the viewer to a meditative place. My hope is the images, the art, and the essays all give rise to contemplation, allowing the viewer to happen upon a kairos moment of their own. Thank you again for allowing me to be with you today.
I want to
Okay.
add, it's not in the script, but that last shot of coming out of the church, that was for Doug Adams' funeral. It was the end of his funeral. If any of you were there, the church on the corner near PSR. For those of you who know that, I love that picture. Thank you, David.
So,
Well, the spirit is no longer disembodied. Matter is no longer unconscious. We can become more open to experiencing mysteries in simple, intuitive, and felt ways. And just as in the introduction here to the book, a poem, breathing, the dancer moves, spirit gently bonding with her soul, dancing with bone and breath. The soul, infused with spirit, is shaping her body, and her body her soul. Body and soul become as one, a living, moving being. So dancing gives expression to who we are, how we see the world around us, and the mysteries of our faith. I would like us all to move again. And if you could join me in a traditional Catholic prayer, come Holy Spirit. I also think of it as Jewish, to come. I'd like to show you once saying the words, and then let's do it all together with music in the background. The music is from Paul Winter, the Sun Singer. For many years, we did the Earth Mass at St. John the Run. So it's come, Holy Spirit, fill our hearts. Enkindle in us the fire of your love. We breathe in, send forth your spirit, and you shall be renewed. And you shall be renewed, and you shall renew the face of the earth. We bend down, and if you can, touch the earth. Let's try it with the music all together. We're ready. Make it your own. There's not one right. Your hearts enkindle in us. The fire of your love. And with your spirit, we shall be renewed. And you shall renew the face of the earth. Hmm.
Anything else you'd like to add, Diana or Carla or David, or shall we open the floor for conversation?
They're muted. I'm saying for them, open the floor. They're both muted.
Wonderful. Again, Mary Hunt here at the Water Office, especially for those who joined us a little bit late. We are thrilled and honored to have with us the authors of Dancing with the Divine, A Flow of Grace, Carla De Sola, the editor, Diana Ware, and the designer, David W. McCauley Jr. And I want to highly recommend it, as I did at the outset. And I think what we've just experienced in such a beautiful way with, oh, yes, hold it right up there, don't be shy. What we've experienced in such a beautiful way with the three of you this afternoon will be the best advertisement for this book that I can possibly imagine. Diane New also gave me the Water books by Carla De Sola, The Spirit Moves, a Handbook of Dance and Prayer, which was published here by the Liturgical Conference. And this, I think, predates your time in Berkeley. Let me just see if there's a
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it is an early book from 1977. David, I don't know if you were born by then, but there it is, and doesn't bear your mark, but it's
That was
yeah.
That was my first year in Berkeley. And so that book, I'm sure, came from my liturgy class with Doug Adams in Berkeley.
Wow, I didn't know that. Thank you.
And this is another one called Peace Rights, and it is edited by Thomas Kane, written by, of course, by Carla De Sola, with a foreword by James Carroll, another one of our great writers and thinkers. And this book was published by the Pastoral Press in Washington, D.C., and I believe this is 1977, if I'm not mistaken. This goes back, 1993. And it also has photo credits to Mev Puleo, who some of you know, the late Mev Puleo. So there's just a lot of history here. And I really, just to say that yes, you have Carla made a mark on this world and on all of us, and with your current collaborators and your former collaborators, that work continues. So with that, let me open the floor, and again, with our deepest thanks to all three of you. If you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, you can use the reaction button on the right-hand bottom of your screen, and you can just press raise hand, and that will take you up to the top of the screen where we'll know exactly where you are. And then you can lower your hand when you're finished after your question. And please keep your questions and comments as brief as you can so that we can hear from lots of people. And I see Victoria Rue, no mean artist herself, is first in line, and one of the great people in the field of religion and the arts. And so we're honored to have you too, Reverend Dr. Victoria Rue. And I think this is appropriate that you start us off.
Well, first, I want to say thank you, Mary. It is so good to see you, Carla. So good to see you.
She taught me how to speak. I may have not done that well. I took a class.
Well, you taught me many things, and I have to say, you know, every time that I would start a liturgy and do Come Holy Spirit, right? Do you remember? My memory is that you and Monica Kaufer and I, but you in particular in your backyard created that Come Holy Spirit. I think.
Did we do the whole thing or just Come Holy Spirit? The whole thing?
No, the whole thing. And it served as the opening of many masses I did as a Roman Catholic woman priest.
I didn't remember that.
I think that's where it started.
I thought I created it for Diana's house church.
Well, you know, I could have it wrong, but Diana, perhaps you will remember.
It seemed
I do.
long. It seemed very.
At any rate,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
It's so good to see you, Carla, and Diana. Always great to see you. You're such a a worker in the fields. And here it is. Look at this wonderful bouquet of flowers that you have created through your editing now. Wonderful. Thank you. And David, I'm stunned by your paintings and your, well, of course, your dancing. I've seen you through the years, many years. And I'm sorry, Mary, I know you said keep it short. Whoops. Okay. I think I just want to thank all three of you for the role of arts in spirituality, in demanding in many ways that the arts be part of liturgies, which have often been so devoid and so sterile, and you have brought life to liturgy and life to engaged spirituality through the body. Thank you all so much. I would just say the arts, tra-la, the arts.
Thank you, Victoria Rue.
Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria, Diana Ware will be next, but I just want to add a parenthesis that Victoria Rue is the author of a book called Acting Religious, Theater as Pedagogy in Religious Studies. And I think if there's another area that is deeply embedded and deeply connected with dance, it is theater. And so Acting Religious, Theater as Pedagogy in Religious Studies is Victoria's volume, which I highly recommend, and I know it's used in a lot of courses where your work would be, Carla, used as well. Diana Ware?
Yeah, so just a historical note, the Come Holy Spirit prayer, the body movement was used in a critical mass, Women
Yes.
Celebrating Eucharist, that Victoria was a founder of, and it transformed into our mass, which is now in the home, with Carolyn Kellogg is here today, also with ACM. And so now, and then when we've been on Zoom, of course, we have had to modify it yet again, but we still, even on Zoom, find the importance of Come Holy Spirit, and we've had to vary it a little bit given the screen. So it's still
Terrific.
with us fully and continuing to be evolved.
Thank you so much. The floor is open. Who will be next? Just put your hand up, or in the old way, you can also just wave your right front paw if that feels more comfortable. So we'll watch for you. Yes, please. Anne, and then Jane Redmont. Anne first, unmute yourself, please. Thank you and welcome. No, yeah, unmute. Put your video back on and then unmute. There, you had it, Ann. Go back again. Just unmute yourself again. There you go. You're in business. Go ahead, Ann. Welcome. Ann, you're still muted. What? Why don't? There you go. Now try it. No. You know what? Let's move on to Jane Redmont, and then we'll come back.
There, is that
There you go. Okay, Ann, go ahead. Welcome.
okay? I hate to use up all this time. Just wanted to say that I studied with Carla decades ago when she had classes in the crypt at St. John the Divine. And I was the person who had lived a lot in my head. And Carla really helped me bring my spirituality into my body and feel embodied. And that has affected my spirituality and my theology ever since. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. I think you speak for many people, Ann. Go ahead, Jane Redmont.
Hi, I'm Jane Redmont. Hello from Boston. I was in Berkeley for 10 years and had the pleasure of studying dance with Carla and being friends with Diana Ware and David McCauley. And I wrote more in the chat. Three things. I was very struck by what Diana said about a different style in presiding at liturgy and integrating a fuller movement into that, and how you, Diana, didn't want to be constrained by the way of presiding of your male colleagues. So that I wanted to lift that up, number one, and see if you wanted to share more about that, or if anybody else did. Number two, I wanted to publicly thank Carla and Diana, who both figure in my book on prayer. Diana talking about her daily prayer, and Carla in contributing some prayer movements, and that has really remained with me. And to all three of you, I do spiritual direction and lead retreats, and I do a lot of begin with the body in spiritual direction. And I think it's important in that vocation of retreats and spiritual direction to integrate what's going on in our bodies and also what's going on in the world. And while I consciously don't think of you and also Victoria and her contributions, and of Mary and Diane, I'm quite sure that all your wisdom has been lodged in my body. I was quite surprised and almost appalled in my peer supervision group for spiritual directors when we were presenting to each other. We take turns presenting and facilitating, and one of my white male colleagues had presented something about a directee of his, and I said, have you thought of asking this person what's going on in their body, as they're talking to you about their life and spirit? And he said, oh, I'd never thought about that. So I was kind of appalled that he'd never thought about that. But I also had a really wonderful conversation with him about 2 years later, where he said, I've kept that in mind for the last 2 years, and it's really helped. So, your impact, all three of you, is great. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing, and then I'll shut up. The fourth thing. I migrated from the Catholic to the Episcopal Church, and while Carla, you worked out of St. John the Divine, I am very struck by the snootiness and anti-liturgical dance remarks I hear in the Episcopal Church, which is a very bodily church and, loves icons and ritual. But in regard to liturgical dance, it drives me crazy.
Thanks, Jane. Jane, I'm going to
The
cut you.
snootiness about it. So anything that you want to add?
Jane,
Thank you.
Jane, read Bishop Mark Andrews, loves dance. He's the Bishop
Great.
of San Francisco. He's invited me
Yeah,
to
I know
do
him.
various things there. He's wonderful.
Great.
And so is St.
Fantastic.
Gregory of Nyssa in St. Gregory
Right.
of Nyssa in San Francisco.
Thanks, Jane. All important points. Thank you for sharing. Mary Grace, you would be next, and then you'll be followed by Pat. So let's try to keep it concise so we can hear from lots of people. There's such enthusiasm. Mary Grace?
Yes, thank you for this wonderful presentation. And I think it is affirming and encouraging to all of us. I know that once with the CTA group, we thought of what kind of prayer haven't we experienced together, even though we were on Zoom, and the word dance came up. And it was very interesting because I agreed to do it. And I took a piece of music from Jan Phillips, and I had sent the music out and the words out earlier. And then I played the music, and I just asked people to get out of their chairs, away from their tables, and to just go with the music and go with however you felt you might express yourselves. And then we came back, and the stories that they shared about what was happening to them in that dance movement was truly beautiful, and it was a blessing to each of us. So even in COVID times, you can do it on Zoom.
A beautiful teaching, Mary Grace, a way of teaching. Thank you.
And Mary Grace is one of the Roman Catholic women priests who does marvelous work in the Chicago area. Okay, go ahead, Pat. You'll be next.
Thank you. Well, Carla, it's so wonderful to see you again. My first working with you was a whole summer at Loyola University with Monica Coffer and Jim Lopresti, and then again we met in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, for the Reimagining Church, which was, I think we had 55 dancers that day.
We had a whole lot. Oh, among the tables in the
Yes.
dining room.
Yes, the big conference room, yes, 2,000 people and 55 dancers.
Oh, it was wonderful.
But I just wanted to touch base with you and to let you know that all those years later, I am still dancing. And one of my dance partners that I often do things with is on this call too, Suzanne Reedy. Suzanne, will you just wave?
There's Suzanne. Okay.
Yeah. So, and we are continuing to do things a lot with using word and movement and combining those kinds of things. So, memorizing texts and doing that. So we just finished Hildegard of Bingham's sequence for the Holy Spirit.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Be not lazy in celebrating, she said, right?
Hmm?
Be not lazy in celebrating, Hildegard.
Right. But the sequence, this is a sequence for the Holy Spirit. So we used it for Pentecost and it was just gorgeous. So, but I have so often thought about how my deep gratitude for the time that we had together, because it really changed the dancer in me to one who began to pray. My dance became my prayer. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very touching.
Anyone else? I'd like to just raise one thing from the book, and that is that there were two chapters that I found particularly moving. One was the dancing with people in prison, and the other was dancing with people who had memory disorders. And I found those really very moving in terms of how they were written up and what that meant, to be able to dance with people for whom other ways of being in the world were more limited. And I just wondered if you would like to reflect on those things. Also, the woman who danced while her friend's body was being cremated. That was another one of those marvelous images in the book. And I just wonder, it also, especially the men in prison, I was struck by something that the Brazilian theologian Ivone Gebara once taught me, which is that people sometimes who are freest with their bodies, we were thinking about Brazilian women dancing, she said some of them are the most wounded, whereas the people who tend not to be as free with their bodies may in fact be have more equilibrium around some of these things. And I wondered if there was some parallel between that and especially the freedom of those good men in prison who were dancing. So I wonder if you could reflect on some of those things. I'm trying to give people a sense of the variety of ways in which your work has been used, is being used, and how people are reflecting on it. And finally, ask the question, is there also ever a time to refrain from dancing? Thinking especially of the kinds of abusive situations or negative experiences people might have had with their bodies. Is there a time to know, or how do you know, or how do you handle a time to dance and a time to refrain from dancing, maybe? So anyway, those are just some issues that I wanted to make sure were on the table and just offer the three of you an opportunity to reflect. Diana, you could go ahead. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I would add to the examples, the same author who wrote about the people in prison, writing about being on a retreat with people who were able-bodied and less and differently able in wheelchairs, and how interesting it was that he tried to get them all together, and it was the able-bodied, not in wheelchair people who held on tight and could not free themselves, and the others who did. So yes, and in terms of a time to dance, and not, if you'll read Teresa Maldonado, Marshak's essay about, and she's in Dancing for the Common Good, how she decided that she had to dance about the sexual abuse she and her sister experienced, and how very painful it was for her to make that decision and feeling that she had to dance that. So that's a very interesting question, that yes, it was very personal, very painful, and didn't want to go public for family reasons, for church reasons, and others. And dancing was what she had to do. So it is an interesting
It cuts
question.
both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Can I,
All of those
Thank you.
examples.
Carla, go ahead, and then David.
what?
Carla first, and then David.
I also taught dance in prison and at different occasions. But one time, the woman just one woman there raised her hands, and she said, "When I raise my hands and dance, there's no ceiling in the jail. The ceiling disappears." I never forgot that image that she, I saw her, quite a bit. And what was the other one? Oh, Teresa Maldonado. Yes, she's a wonderful dancer. She's still teaching dance here. She just came back to see her family. I saw the dance she did at the YMHA as a part of a whole dance program with this dance on that. It's a wonderful memory from her writing of it.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, well, I sort of speak just from an experiential standpoint of having performed in Rikers Island, which those of you in New York know is for pretty hardcore folks. And seeing a prisoner break down in just saying, if this had been, I was performing there with the company, and they were like, if this had been available to me, I would not be here. And so, that is one of the things, but it is difficult to perform in prison, I have to tell you. But there are times when your body simply wants to be still. And one of Carla's favorite quotes is is it E. Cummings, Carla? Don't let me get it wrong.
T.S. Eliot at the
T.S.
still
Eliot.
point of the turning
The
world.
still point of is where the dance is, and sometimes that is the deal. Gladys Balin, who I did some studying with, used to have a thing where our bodies were moving, everything is moving, and we had to slowly still it down until there was no physical movement, but you felt the excitement within your spirit, that there was the movement, but your body wasn't moving. And sometimes I think this is can be a very powerful place to be still and still be in motion. So, don't know if that makes any sense to you, but
Lots of sense.
that's what I
yes.
wanted to say.
and lots of wisdom, David. Lots of sense and lots of wisdom. Thank you. Jean, you'll be next.
Hi, I wanted to add my thanks and gratitude. I had the gift of experiencing your dance when I was doing my MDiv in the 80s, Carla, at Western Jesuit, and Tom Kane had invited you to come and share liturgy with us, and I was mesmerized. The earlier part of my life, I was a dancer and I taught dance, and so I kind of really resonate with that as prayer. And I think even as a child, that was prayer for me. But in listening to the conversations about people who are living in bodies that have been abused, or people in prison where their bodies are so contained, what comes to me is how in our culture, we are so taught to keep our bodies still. I'm thinking of the challenge little boys have in school. We hear about all the time. The girls do better with sitting still. And I just remember as a kid sitting still, and in my mind, I was dancing, but I was very good at sitting still and folding my hands. But I danced every day. I had lessons. So I just think it's something to really think about, how we are a culture that's so contained in non-moving in church. We might stand and kneel. Well, not in our parish, but not in our church. I'm co-pastor of the Spirit of Life, a Catholic community of justice and joy, and we do a lot of moving, but it's not kneeling down kind of stuff. But I think it's hard. We often have a dance at the end. It's very informal. there are still a few people who just can't let their body move with that in that kind of way. They're just not that free. But I think it's so much of the conditioning that many of us received as children. Yeah, those are my thoughts. So thank you. And I'm so eager for this book. I already have a list of people I'm going to buy it for. So thank you so much for your work, the
Allow
three
me
of you.
one last shameless promotion of this book, which I hope you will take very seriously. Dancing with the Divine. David has been so kind as to put a website link in where you can order it, and it's in the chat. And we'll also make sure that that's in the materials that we send out after this event. So, Dancing with the Divine, a flow of grace. Carla, go ahead. You're next.
I was just saying, but the stillness or entering into a stillness can be a kairos moment. I mean, there's such a sense of if we just did that and right before your fingertips touch, feel the energy flowing beyond, but they're right there and be present. I just think we can find kairos in stillness as well as all the movement thing, but it's the stillness at the still point of the turning world. They're the dancers. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have the sad task of saying that we've reached the end of our covenant. Oh, Diane knew. Wait, I could never stop you. Go ahead. Just unmute.
Carla, I have known about you for 50 years. I have read about you. I have studied about you in my liturgical studies at the Jesuit School of Theology. What a pleasure to see you on this event today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all of your prophetic work to bring movement to liturgy. Many people have said it. I just want to echo it. I also want to say I do dance aerobics twice a week on Monday and Friday. And I raise that because in these COVID moments and when church has changed and liturgy has changed and is changing, I bring all of that spiritual, liturgical, prophetic power that you have given us to my dance aerobics class, which keep me alive during the week. So thank you for bringing dance movement spirit to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the head of the dance at BC.
Wonderful. I'm going to, again, take the sad opportunity to say we've reached the end of our covenanted time. JT, if you'd be so kind as to capture the chat, we'll make sure that goes out in written form to people. Conversation will continue, however, with those who would like to stay on for a few minutes after I make the announcements. You're more than welcome to stay in conversation, again, with the deepest thanks to Carla and Diana and David for your time. If you'd like to stay on, obviously, we would welcome you more than warmly, but we want to also respect your time and the generosity with which you have shared with us. Let me announce then the forthcoming programs at Water, and then we'll continue our discussion. The next one will be a meditation on Monday, the 13th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Virginia Day, who is with us, will lead us in the meditation, which will be focused on Abby Lincoln's lyrics, "The world is falling down, hold my hand." And we were talking earlier in the day, and when she chose that, things weren't falling down quite as badly as they're falling down this week. So it was one of those inspired topics, I think, Virginia. We look forward to it, and I know it will be a beautiful presentation. Virginia is both a nurse and a hospice chaplain, and someone who brings an enormous array of wisdom to that. And it's a really brief thing. It's an 8-minute input and 22 minutes of collective silence. And then we have a little bit of sharing toward the end. It's a lovely monthly experience. You're welcome, everyone. And then on June the 15th, which is a Wednesday at 1 o'clock, not at 2 o'clock. Today was 2 o'clock. Tea on Tuesday is at 2, but the water talks on Wednesday are at 1 o'clock. We will have with us Professor Lisa Allen, and she will talk about her book, A Womanist Theology of Worship, Liturgy, Justice, and Communal Righteousness, an Orbis book from 2021. I repeat, Lisa Allen, A Womanist Theology of Worship, liturgy, justice, and communal righteousness, and to hear from a womanist theologian how the many and varied insights of womanist theology are being woven into worship in a variety of settings, especially in Black churches, but elsewhere as well, I think is enormously important and will be a very, very useful follow-up to this conversation. And then on the Tuesday, the 21st of June, Diane New and the Ritual Group will be celebrating the summer solstice. And so that will be at 7:30 Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday, June 21st, with Diane New and Water Friends, the summer solstice. So please feel free to join us. I hope you have felt comfortable and welcome today. All water programs are free and open to everyone. Your donations to water, of course, are needed and welcome. The Elaine Donaldson program and also program support and the support from other friends helps to make this work possible. We try here at Water, as I said at the outset, to socialize resources. So those who can donate do so, but we always make water programs available to everyone without charge because of the generosity of those who can share. We believe one thing here at Water: if we share, among us, there's enough. If we share, among us, there is enough. And we've just seen a beautiful example of that where Carla and Diana and David have shared with us something so exquisite and so moving. And many of you have shared your own experiences that have brought this book into being and have really made, and I have to say this to you, Carla, directly, you made something that didn't exist before happen. We did not have, certainly in the Catholic Church, but in many, I don't want to limit ourselves, in many religious traditions, at least in the 20th century, these certainly are historical precedents, but you really brought liturgical dance to the fore in a variety of settings. And just listening to the number of people and the number of different places where they encountered you, they remembered you, they read you, they listened to you, as we did today, along with Diana and David, you made something out of nothing. And that really is the stuff of creation. So thank you so very much. And with that, I wish everyone a good day, and we will continue our conversation immediately. So hands up or wave your hands, make comments as you wish. The floor is open. Thank you all, and thank you to JT for tech help on this.
I'm so moved. I feel like crying almost. I'm very moved with this affirmation of my life's work.
Well, you know, it's all true. And I think it's important to hear it and to receive it in the spirit in which people have been sharing with all three of you.
Thank you, Diana, for connecting me.
And I say thank you to all of you. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience to be here with you. I think I'm probably going to cut out. I have to go and do my voting now. So,
It's important.
so I'm
It's
going to
big
say
in California.
a heartfelt thank you to all of you. And
Thank you
goodbye.
so much. And
You're
do your
welcome.
civic duty on behalf of all of us out there.
Indeed. Thank you.
The floor is open. I know there'll be other expressions of appreciation, so please feel free or ask questions or make comments, and especially from people we haven't heard from. Sheila, go ahead. Sheila Curran from Dublin.
Carla, I mean, the whole presentation was beautiful, profoundly creative and wonderful. And just when Mary was talking about people who can't, or, you know, who maybe where dance may not be appropriate, I was thinking more about the availability of dance as a transcultural way of communicating and connecting across boundaries. And I suppose as an Irish woman, while dance would be in our psyche to a degree, we're very stilted. And if you know of river dance, or what people think is our national way of dancing. But when I lived in Latin America and in Peru, and the variety of ways in which people automatically celebrate liturgy, that is so different. And, you know, that music and dance are innate in the way they celebrate, and it's the Western culture that drives it out. So I was just wondering, in your experience of working across both, you know, all religions, all faiths, all colors, all creeds, is it what you would find the thing that unites people,
Well,
in
I
a
think
way in which they can have more creativity about breaking boundaries that don't need words, you know, that
oh, yes.
that.
We have a whole dance called Beyond Words, the interfaith
Mhm.
ritual for peace.
All right.
That comes immediately to mind. But I come from a Jewish background, and dance was just part of everything. I would do the horror, do the grapevine. I wasn't brought up religiously, but dance is in everyone's bones, and dance is part of all cultures. Dance as a way of connecting the soul and the earth, but all cultures from the beginning of time, dance. It's really universal. And just the image of the circle dance, which is what interests me in terms of Trinity and perichoresis, is winding in and out of a circle dance of connection, that we are connected already anyhow, so it's bringing it out to be worked on, but it is part of the human experience. I have some friends that I was looking a bit at a Guatemalan, and dance, of course, dance all over. I just, but there's not only dance, human dance. Look what's behind you. Are those clouds dancing?
Mhm.
Behind you.
Yeah,
It-
the lights.
That's the Northern Lights.
Northern Lights, they dance all the time.
Right.
Wow.
So I got to see them in Donegal as well as in Canada. So I'm always telling people you don't have to go very far to see them.
Thanks,
I
Sheila.
love to bring up the shaker dance. That hasn't come up. But I was taught from some shakers at a Quaker retreat. It's a gift to be simple. It's a gift to be free. You want to learn it? I don't know. Maybe that's not appropriate. We're talking together.
Let's take a vote. Who wants to dance? Who wants to talk? So one dance? Should we have
Yeah,
one
but
dance?
it's just, there is a lovely simple dance that the shakers do.
Sure, go ahead. We're in for a dime, in for a dollar here, folks.
It's a gift
Exactly.
to be simple. It's a gift. Receiving grace. It's a gift to be simple. It's a gift to be free. It's a gift dropping out all it's not, you don't like it yourself. So it's a gift to be simple. It's a gift to be free. It's a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, we'll be in the valley of dance and light. Dance, oh, I may have forgotten it, wherever you may be. Dance. Oh, I've forgotten it exactly.
Others can help you with the words.
No, I know the words. I've forgotten what. It's a gift to be free. It's a gift to come down where we ought to. Oh, twice. And when we find ourselves, it's just right to be in the valley of love and delight. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he. And turn around yourself one circle to the right. Dance with you, dance with me, and then reverse the circle. Da 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 da. I was taught that outside a Quaker monument of some kind, outside of Amherst, New York, somewhere. Not New York. Yeah, Amherst, Connecticut. My brain knew
Wonderful. Well, you've all danced with Carla now.
it.
Go
Right.
ahead. Who's next? Yes, Pat, you had another question.
Yes. And that's stepping. It's actually, it's
Not, let me just say that I actually I teach this to the children in our parish. And that's one of their very favorite dances. So, and I learned it from you, Carla, years and years and years ago. So let's,
Or
you want to do it, let's do it.
side to side and then circle and circle.
Other comments, especially from other dancers.
I am just floored. I've never considered myself a dancer growing up. I had really poor body image of myself. I was a very large woman. And all of a sudden I observed it once. I don't know where I was, and I was called. And there are moments in my life when I can't put words to it, but I just feel called to move. And I've been gifted. And I'm really just blessed and grateful that there's opportunities for me to share this gift and to be with all of you and listening to Carla, who probably got a lot of other people in the world to say, yes, this can be part of liturgy. So people took a chance and my community welcomes it. I'm just very grateful to Mary and Diane too for letting me know about this.
Yes, Kathy Ann is part of the Dignity group in Boston and Dignity Women and other groups. And I have to say, Kathy Ann, whenever I'm in your presence and we're supposed to dance, my eyes are fixed upon you because you are the leader of, in my view, you dance in a way that is so empowering of the rest of us. So just to affirm that vocation that you feel.
Thank you.
And let me also affirm it too, if I may, before you speak, Imogene. Kathy Ann is a part of the Water Ritual group. And whenever I'm looking at script and even asking people to do readings, I know, Kathy Ann, if I say, can you do this reading? And you respond, yes, it will always include dance. And so I keep that in mind as I'm looking at the perfect reading of whatever the script is that will bring forth from you to all of us the movement of the Spirit. So thank you for sharing your gift.
You're welcome. I really feel like I've heard that everybody has it in them. And there's something that you sort of have to get beyond. And I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but it does. I'm just blessed that sometimes that does happen.
Go ahead, Imogene.
Hi.
Wait, Carla, did you want to respond first and then
When
Imogene?
you said everyone, yes, when Kathy said everyone has it within in them, where did that come from? I suddenly said a heartbeat, a heartbeat. A heart is beating. That's one answer. Blood is flowing through the veins. That's another thing. That just, I shut up.
Just breathing.
And the breathing that we did. Breathing, heartbeat, blood flowing.
I just wanted to say thank you for the reminder about liturgical dance. I read your book many moons ago, and I was so very happy to, happy to find that you were going to be here today. So I wanted to make sure that I joined you. I have done some liturgical dance in our church, but it's been a long time ago. And with the kids, we've used it with the kids. We even did one at our regional gathering. A bunch of us danced early one morning. But I just wanted to thank you again for reminding us of that. We have a new pastor coming to the church where I'm the organist, and I've been doing some fill-in work preaching as well. But she wants to bring arts more visibly too. So I'm thinking this is a perfect time to get more dance back again too. We have some visual arts and we certainly have music, but we need more movement too, more choreography that way. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Where are you from?
Imogene, Carla's asking where you're from.
We're doing this. Just, that's okay. It's okay.
Imogene, I don't know if you heard this, but Carla was asking you where you're from. So if you could unmute and tell her. Unmute, please.
Oh, me? Okay. I'm from, I live in Tewksbury, Mass, 20 miles north of Boston. Oh. I played at church in Cambridge, and I did some eurythmics work too with Lisa Parker, and that was very important. And my organ instructor at that time said, I don't know what's happened to your playing. Maybe it's eurythmics because your playing is very different. So it made a difference about getting the body moving and just feeling the music that way. He could tell a difference in my playing.
Good, nice, good.
And I used to teach public school music too in Cambridge, and it was very important for me to get the kids moving and not just having them just sit somewhere either.
Good, thank you.
Wonderful. Anybody else before we close our session this afternoon? Please go ahead if there is.
Carla, I just want to say I went to the Weston Jesuit School of Theology, and I was a student of Thomas Kaine's. So I remember reading some of the articles and being part of Dignity. And I think before at our conventions, we've always done liturgical movement, and then reading about Tommaso, like being his student and really seeing how I think that movement and dance has been such a healing tool, something that we didn't really touch on, but I know other dance therapists have done, is working with children with disabilities as well as adults and children with trauma. That has, I think that has, and also people with disabilities being able to be part of communities, liturgical communities, and doing movement and dance, I feel like has been such a gift, that I think that you really are the person who led this movement and really birthed so many people doing such important healing work on this planet. So I'm really grateful to you, Carla.
I need to give honor to Tommaso.
Yes.
And he needs healing and help for his body and everything.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I will tell him that you knew him in Boston?
Yes.
Okay.
Diana, I was amused by, and not in a haha way, but I was taken by your story, horrified by your story of not being able to take presentation style class at the Jesuit School of Theology in Berkeley. And I remember, unless memory has faded, that I took it, and Diane knew, I think you were the champion. You were the highest, probably got the highest grade any Jesuit ever got. You just eclipsed them all. But what I remember when I took it were two things. One was that I had a Franciscan who taught me how to do the Mass, and because that's what you had to do. You had to actually preside at Mass. And I had a Franciscan, Joe Kenichi.
Yeah.
If you remember Joe, he'll probably be put in ecclesial prison for having taught me that. But the other thing that I remember most distinctly was that one of the readings in the course, and I'm sure one could find it, was a brilliant article. I make fun of it. A brilliant article called "Training the Muscles That Minister." How is that for a macho approach to training the muscles that minister? Couldn't be further from the things that we are expressing and learning from Carla how to move our body, training the muscles that minister. Sort of the Ignatian exercises with, just really, just silly, just pitiful. And no wonder by the time you got there that they wouldn't let you take the class.
Oh, I'm sure that Diane, having shown so much grace and fortitude at it, that they said, we can't have this anymore.
No.
What? Once women enter and we upstage the guys out.
Yeah,
it was foreboding.
I think that's why. Yeah. I think that's why. And in my day, we even took confessional counseling. I hope you took that.
Wow.
We couldn't do that either.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have to go, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
we all have to go.
What a treat this was.
This was great.
It
Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
Day.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Diana,
Wonderful.
and thank you to Carla, and in absentia, thank you to David, and thank you to all of you for bringing your experiences, and also thank you for the marvelous ministry that you all do. I think of so many of you that I know and the work that you do. Jean, I'm thinking about your work in Massachusetts, and Barbara, I know what you do in hospice, and it's just a wonderful thing to say. Kathy Ann goes without saying, my dance guru, just to have you with us and to have us all in the presence of Diana and Carla and David for this was just a wonderful way, to spend some time at a very hard time in our history, isn't it? I mean, it's a very hard time in our collective history. So this is a bit of a ray of hope. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
you all.
Thank you
Come
so
back
much.
again soon.
Good to be together.
Okay, blessings.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Take care,
everybody.
Ann. Thanks for being here. Pat, good to be with you. Imogene.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks, Ann. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Carla was wonderful, really wonderful.
Really.
I had no idea it was gonna, that so many people would know me and from so long ago.
Oh, yes.
Right. It's just amazing. I just love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, that's why we're called the Women's Alliance, Carla, because we bring together the people who, it's all the good people come together, the Women's Alliance for Theology, Ethics, and Ritual. And you're part of that, and your work is part of that and integral to that. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. I will disappear reluctantly.
Yes, well,
Carla, I have a question for you, which is a strange one. In 1976,
Oh, yes.
1976, were you in Chicago at Loyola or doing summer in the summertime?
I could have been. I could have been. I was at Loyola, but yes, the very 1976 was that.
In the summer.
I had we had a residency there.
Yes.
We did.
Okay. And my dear friend, Javon Yondo, a sister of Providence, did your dance class that summer, did your residence that summer. I was trying to situate that with Mary, and Mary said, I don't know that she was in Chicago. And I said, I think so. Yes.
I was, and there was other occasions that there was one in which I just, we all stood up for something or other. I don't remember, but I don't think that, I think that was separate from the 1 or 2 week residency from St. John the Divine, but I wasn't there until the 80s. Wait a moment.
And did you ever come to St. Mary of the Woods in Indiana?
Yes. We did.
Yes.
Yes. And they were all different, different dances and all kind of stuff. But this is all liturgical, but I think of dances, my Sojourner Truth dance, my Anne Frank dance, my Ferretti dance, different dances that were not liturgical dances. That's because I had the studio at St. John the Divine and I could work on that. You know.
And you wrote that you built that studio?
My husband did. Yes, he got to know the dean, Dean Morton. He's a wonderful person. He now died. But Jim Morton, he was the promoter. He had an African dance company that Paul Winter. We did the Earth Mass for years and years and years. He was really a promoter of the arts and health. We paid nothing for the studio in New York for 25 years, which could get us going. So after my husband, he built it. Everyone helped, with wood and that kind of thing. It was a sprung dance floor. Also, this studio here in Berkeley. And David did that picture, if I can do my fingers. This friend Louise, who was a fabric artist, did that. This is an icon, various things. This is a painting of David's. Here's the earth ball. We've used Livermore Lab a lot for peace things. I don't know what comes next. I need to become more introspective. The inner dance and what it involves. That's a nice movement for that. Hey, that could be the start. The inner dance. Long call. I think you know what I mean, Pat. I just see the look on your face.
Yes, yes. I'm very much there at this point. Yeah.
Really, because I move much less. We just finished Pentecost with flags at Newman yesterday, Sunday.
So just to affirm, Carla, what you were saying, you were in Chicago at Loyola University with the Institute of Pastoral Studies. And I was on the worship team and danced with you for those several weeks.
It was wonderful to have the experience of being actually a resident somewhere. That was a first. Exciting. Yeah.
Well, and the BVMs there at Mundelein were always very much in the arts. They're into the arts.
Yes.
At Mundelein College, which later became part of Loyola, but I think the
Mundelein, that was across the way.
That's right. And it was later bought or eaten or hostily taken over, whatever, by Loyola, in that typical pattern of men's schools buying women's colleges. Money, but the Mundelein women, the BVM women, did marvelous work and included a number of artists who were part of their own community. So they certainly had a commitment to that. There was that lovely mansion at the corner of where Devon turns there. There was that lovely building, and actually Carolyn Farrell, the late great Carolyn Farrell, who was the only woman to be mayor of Dubuque, who was a BVM sister, was the the vice president of Loyola by that time through the transition, and raised the several $millions to transform that building into a center, the Anne-Ida Gannon Center for Women in Leadership. And Anne-Ida Gannon, who was one of the great women in Catholic.
That's the only time I've been in Chicago, I think,
Yeah.
so I don't know the whole place well. But
Yeah.
I do remember on the line and the waterfront, right? There was water.
Exactly. And that beautiful chapel, the Loyola Chapel, the De La Strada.
Madonna della Strada that opened up
Right.
onto the to the lake. Yeah.
Extraordinary location. Yeah. Great. Anne, did you have anything you wanted to add before we close? Anne, if you want to unmute it, if you have anything to add, you'd be welcome at this time.
I'm going to say goodbye. Good to reconnect with you, Carla. And
Anne, go ahead.
some water.
Hi, just first of all, that I knew Ida Gannon for years in a group called Lumina, and so it's an interesting connection.
What?
I knew
Lumina.
Ida Gannon
Anne-Ida Gannon.
in a group called Lumina, so I was moved by her voice. Joy to see and hear you, Carla, after all these years.
This is very moving to me. I wasn't anticipating this going backwards so far.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
You've taken us forward so far as well. So
Right,
let's not
yes.
leave that to mention. I'm going to close us out here for the day, but I want to thank each and every one of you, and Carla, especially for your time. It's really generous of you, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again.